Google as you were called the most powerful person in all of advertising. You're in a really much different role now, running a specific business. So tell me a little bit about the transition.
Yeah. Well, I had worked in advertising for almost 12 years. And so when the opportunity came up to work at YouTube and work with creators and think about the next generation of TV, I was really excited. And when I first got to YouTube, it reminded me a lot of Google in 2003 or 2004, when we were a much smaller company, when we had all the different cross-functional groups in the same area, and we had all these big plans, but we didn't have enough people to get them done. And so a lot of times in my head I was thinking, like, what did I do in 2003 or 2004 when we didn't have all the people to help us and we didn't have all these different people who were experts in the area? How did we get through it? And so I've been thinking a lot about that and thinking about what did I learn from that? Going through it once, how can I do it better the second time?
And what have you learned?
You mean being there? Well, I think the first and most important thing is scale. And a lot about scaling is getting the right people in place and figuring out who do you need in place to be able to get it done. Because you learn really quickly, I'm sure as everyone here in the audience knows, that you're only as good as your team is, and your job is to really hire the experts and to set them up and give them the right direction and the right resources to make that happen. And so, and also to set the right priorities. And so that's also been a big challenge, which is how YouTube, I think, is similar to Google, which is, if there are 50 things you want to do and you only have enough resources for 10, you don't want to peanut butter your team. You want to make some hard choices and say, these are the things that we're going to do.
As we are still mourning, commemorating, and also pay tributes to the legendary former boss, CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, who passed on at the age of 56. So many people have come out, to give their credits, to pay their own tributes to the former CEO of YouTube, who passed away as a result of lung-related illness. Google's chief executive, Sundar Pichai, came out and announced that Mrs. Wojcicki had passed away after 2 years of living with lung-related illness. Mr. Pichai, who is also the boss of Google's parent company Alphabet, said on X, formerly Twitter, that he was unbelievably saddened, and Mrs. Wojcicki was a core to the history of Google as anyone. Was described as one of the most important Googler you've never heard of. Mrs. Wojcicki was, present at the company's beginning when in 1998, she rented out her Menlo Park garage, to the search engines firm founders, that is Mr. Brin and Larry Page. She was so influential at the beginning of the company, where I'm posting this video, that is Google and YouTube as a whole. She was later persuaded to leave her job at chip giant Intel, to join Google, becoming the firm's 16th employee. Unprecedentedly, she spent close to over 20 plus years at the company. And Mrs. Wojcicki, she's been regarded as one of the most influential ladies, so many girls, so many young women are looking up to, because she's been at the top of almost a very successful, huge, and one of actually the biggest brands you can talk about in the whole world. She went ahead to lead YouTube, the online video sharing company that is owned by Google, like I've told you, for 9 years, until 2023, when she stepped down to focus on her family, health, personal projects she was passionate about at the time. Mrs. Wojcicki was one of the relatively few women to hold a senior role in the technology industry. By the way, an industry which is not so simple, an industry which requires a lot, because in one of the interviews, she actually said that she could wake up so early in the day, leave the home at 6, leave the kids behind, and come back almost at 10 p.m. late at the night. She pursued her career, she pursued her purpose, and she was, very hardworking traits you can so many people can pick up, so many young women, so many young girls can pick up. And of course she was one of the relatively few women, like I've told you, to hold a very big role in IT industry. Right about now we are talking about artificial intelligence, we are talking about AI and stuff like that, but these are people who actually have spearheaded the development of all these technologies we are not talking about, we are using. And of course we should credit her to influence and actually enrich so many people with regards to IT, artificial intelligence and technology. We are sending our deepest condolences, and of course when the family comes out to announce the funeral and memorial service updates, we'll be coming out to pay our own tributes and also give you all those details. Rest in power the Queen, Mrs. Susan Wojcicki.